Let's tie this bead head stonefly. We're going to start with some black thread. I'm going to start it towards the back end of the hook. The first material we're going to tie in is the turkey biot for the tail. That's this piece right here. So we're going to cut off 2 of those pieces and tie them in on the tail. And if you look at them closely, you can kind of see sometimes there's a little curve to them. It's hard to see on the camera. These ones aren't terribly curved, but there's a slight curve. I'm going to have it curve away from the hook shank on both sides here. So I'm going to just line it up, see how far back I want it to go. Put a couple of wraps here to keep it on the side of the hook. I'm going to come in with my second one and have the curve go away from the hook shank on my side of the hook now. Get those locked in. Now I'm going to take some of this rubber ribbing material, get that tied in. Looks like my tails are slipping. I'm going to back this ribbing off real quick. I'm going to place those in position again and see if I can get that to lock down with a few more wraps of thread. Hopefully that'll stay put a little bit more. A little bit more of a base thread on the hook probably would have helped that too. I'll get this ribbing back in place. And next we're going to take some of the black dubbing and just create a little dubbing rope. Now we don't need a ton of dubbing right now because this isn't going to go all the way to the head. It's just for the back half of the hook for now. As you've seen, I like to get it wet with just licking my fingers a little bit. Helps kind of twist it on there a little bit better. So again, we're just kind of going in the back half here. It's about there. Pull off that extra. Tighten that up. Now with this ribbing, we're just going to make maybe 2 or 3 passes. Probably can sneak 3 in here. And then tie that off. Tie that tag end down there just so it kind of stays out of the way. Okay, I'm going to come back on the dubbing just a little bit here because now we're going to tie in the turkey pieces. Take that feather. What you're going to do is cut a little point into the tip of the feather, and that's going to come off the back here. So I'm going to make sure my thread's about in the position I want it to be. Hold this right there. Make a kind of a loose wrap first. Tighten it down there. And I'm going to cut off that excess. We're going to take another one. Tie that right on top of that one. Slip that one out a little bit. So I'm going to retie that one here. A little bit better. Cut off that excess. I'm going to wrap it down a little bit tighter here again. Now what I want to do is just bring in a little bit more of this black dubbing. Actually, before the dubbing, let's go back to the biot, because if you look at the original here, we've got a couple of biots up front there by the bead. So I'm going to tie those in first before I get the dubbing in place. So I'm going to pull off 2 of those. And again, we're going to kind of have them go away from the hook. And this will help too for when you're trying to tie your line to the hook, because it'll be kind of pulling away. That bead too, as you see, is going to kind of push them out. So I'm going to do both of these here first. Then once I'm done, I'm going to snip the back end of them off. Get those in place. Come in with my scissors and snip the back ends of those biots off. Pick up with that black dubbing again. And we're just using a small section of this here. Not a lot of the hook that we're trying to cover, so I think every time I put on dubbing, I put on too much onto the rope, and that's fine, because we'll just pull that right off there. Okay, at this point what we're going to do is we're going to tie on some of the rubber legs. So take off one of those pieces. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and I'm going to say, okay, this piece is pretty long for this fly. So I'm going to use that to my advantage by tying in the back side here first. One or two wraps should hold it in. And now I'm going to tie in the front, but I'm leaving that loop in the front. And I like to leave the loop because then it's one piece for both legs, so they're both in place, but it's just one piece to manage. And in a minute that'll come in handy when we do the whip finish. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take another piece of that turkey. Let's take another piece of this feather, put that point in the top again. Let's cut that point. Now we're going to put that right over the top of everything here. Just kind of get that in there. Actually, this is the point where we're going to use that loop. We're going to get that loop out of the way here. So I'm going to go behind my thread, bring that loop behind those biots, so we're not capturing those. This little bread tie, just put this back here to hold everything out of the way while we tie that last piece on. You could also use a piece of lead wire if you're doing anything with weight to the fly. So you could use a little lead wire right there too. So come in here, tie this turkey down. Cut off that excess. A couple of wraps to hold it in place. whip finish. Well, that bread tie doesn't like to stay in place, huh? And neither does this whip finish. Let's try that again. Just going to reset this thread so it's hanging again. See if I can get that bread tie to hold everything back. Actually, it looks like it's holding on its own, but we'll just still come in here and do a quick wrap with that to help hold it in place. Let's do a little hand whip finish here. A couple of half hitches. That bite out of the way. Snip that thread. Take that off, and now you've got that loop up front. And you can just cut that loop. Make sure your legs look good. Make sure they're the length you want them. And that's the bead head stonefly.